Today is the day. I'm going to show you what we eat in a day. So we woke up and we do stretching every morning for about 15 to 20 minutes, and during that time we drink tea. So I drink green rooibos with lemon and ginger, and then Scott drinks pu'er tea with lemon and ginger. And we try to eat 30 minutes to an hour after waking up. So normally after we get done stretching, I'll start making breakfast. And I chose to show you what we're eating today because we do these type of meals at least once a week. We have done a lot of changes in how we've been eating recently, but it's not so much in what we've been eating, but how I have been preparing what we're eating. So I'll talk about that as those things come up. We pretty much eat the same breakfast every morning. Eggs on sourdough with whatever meat we had from the night before. So I have finally figured out how to make a sourdough starter. My friend Julia sent me the salt water yeast, I think that's it, book, and he had the recipe for how to start it. Finally trying this recipe, I made it. I made the sourdough, and some days the bread turns out good and other days it doesn't. So this is our leftover hamburger meat from last night with onions, so warming that up. Normally, we would do, I would do 2 eggs, Scott would do 3 eggs, but we're at the end of our eggs. We're going to the farmer's market today to get more, so it's just 1 egg for me and 1 egg for Scott. I always try to save the meat from the night before to have some for the morning. So while that is finishing cooking, I'm going to show you how I prepared last night for this morning. So I started soaking our rice. We're going to have rice for dinner with crock-pot meat. So this is sprouted rice from Azure. And after doing some research, and if you haven't listened to the Wives Traditions podcast from Weston A. Price Foundation, I highly recommend it. There are so many good resources on their website of articles and Sally Fallon's book about how to prepare foods like our ancestors did. So I soaked the rice. And now that I know what I know, I would buy white rice. That is because white rice is easier to digest than brown rice. The other thing is our oats, which has absorbed all the water, but also soaked our oats overnight. So we do a 1/2 cup of rolled oats, a 1/2 cup of buckwheat, and a 1/2 cup of steel cut oats. And we always would soak those overnight. But I have been consistent with now adding apple cider vinegar. So I add a cupful of apple cider vinegar. That helps break down, I'm going to say the word wrong, but the phthalates, taking them and adding the apple cider vinegar, and you can soak these for up to 24 hours before you use them. Where things changed for us a little bit, because we were doing oats for breakfast, but we were intermittent fasting, so we were doing oats around 10 or 11 in the morning, and that would be our first meal of the day. It's so amazing how God works. I have been praying, and I always seek God about what we should be eating and our journey of trying to get pregnant, asking him for wisdom on what we should be doing. And one of my friends sent me the Freely Rooted podcast, and back in like March, the end of March, beginning of April, and I listened to their first episode and I just started crying because I finally felt like someone was speaking into what I deeply desire, and they're Christian girls. I feel like listening to their podcast has opened me up to the pro-metabolic world, and also understanding food and eating for nutrition rather than eating, and it sounds so silly, but how do you get as much nutrition through your food as possible? And that is their frame. Like all the foods we want to eat because they're densely, they have dense nutrients. And how do we prepare them so we can get the most out of them and so we can digest them well? And that's a problem that we have. Like, why do we have liver problems? Because our gut and we're not properly preparing foods. And so they went into intermittent fasting and how it's not that safe for women. And literally I heard that, and then our acupuncturist also said the same thing to me, and then Another article came out that I stumbled across, and then something else I stumbled across all at once. And I was like, oh my gosh, God, I think you're definitely speaking to us. And at that same time, we went to a friend's house, and they actually, we camped out, and they made us eggs and bacon and bread for breakfast in the morning and over the campfire. And Scott and I were like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And so we're like, we feel amazing. We just immediately changed what we were doing. And so we're getting nutrient dense foods in our breakfast first thing in the morning. We'll still do the oats because I think the fiber is really good for us. And so we'll do that later on in the day. So here is our breakfast. Probably add some ketchup to it. It doesn't look beautiful, but it's gonna taste amazing. And then I'm leaving one little toast on the griddle because after I eat my savory breakfast, I'll have a little bit of butter and strawberry jam. And here is my butter and bread, a way for me to get raw butter in. Also strawberry jam that I made, and it doesn't have any refined sugars in it, so it's jam that's made with honey and applesauce.
So we're crock potting our dinner, which is a really easy way to do meat. We've got some marrowbone ossobuco, which is like the leg meat with marrowbone in it, which is really good for us. And that's just a top round, just your regular like roast that we get. Put it in here for like 6 to 8 hours. Put some spices and whatever you like. So I like balsamic vinegar with my meat. We've been on a huge journey with meat. I'm really grateful for the Marksbury guys who I worked with for a while. But you know, I didn't know much at all about why you should be eating grass-fed meat or without steroids or without hormones and all this stuff. So it's a real deep dive to get into. But basically, cows eat grass and corn is not grass. So effectively you're kind of making them, you know, because when you feed them corn to try and bulk them up and fatten them, you're kind of stressing their system, their own body, because that's not their natural diet. Obviously being out in the pasture is a lot better on the cow. You get different minerals and kind of nutrients out of a grass-fed cow than you do a corn-fed cow. And then obviously hormones are a huge issue. You know, if you're injecting a cow with growth hormones, antibiotics, all this kind of stuff, you're then going to be secondhand eating all of that.
Not mealtime, but I'm getting ready to pick some raspberries, some wild raspberries that we have. So I thought I would show you what I'm snacking on. So this is what we've got, plus the ones that I already ate. And I'm just so grateful. We had no idea when we moved in here that there was raspberry bushes, and I'm pretty sure there's blackberry bushes as well. And there's just nothing better than eating creation that God grew. You didn't even plant it. We'll eat these today, and every day I'll go out and just continue harvesting them until they're done. So I am now getting ready to make our oats, and you'll see I always add coconut butter to my oats, but Scott loves peanut butter. So I was going to show you something different that I'm doing, because I did make a video on how you can make your own peanut butter at home, organic, and it's way cheaper. We buy the peanuts from Azure Standard, and for 30 pounds, it is 90 bucks, which that breaks down to, I think, $3 per 16-ounce jar of peanut butter, which if you buy organic peanut butter from the store, you know that it's like $6 to $7. Something new that I'm doing is I've learned that nuts really need to be soaked in order for our digestive system to be able to digest them. So I looked up what I could do, and with peanuts, because we had just bought 30 pounds of peanuts, and I was like, oh no, is this all waste? But it's not, because you can still soak them. So that's what I did. I soaked these peanuts for like 20 hours, and then you lay them out on a pan, and I put it on parchment paper, and you put the oven on low, and for about 12 hours you just let the peanuts dry back out. And now, doing what we normally do, I'm just gonna put this whole thing in the Vitamix, and we'll have peanut butter. Our oats are heating up. I will show you what we're gonna do with them in a moment. I thought I would tell you about what I drink throughout the day. So after we had breakfast, I made myself English breakfast tea with a little bit of honey and raw cream. I don't actually ever drink English breakfast tea anymore. This morning was really cold and it sounded good to me, so that's what I drank. And then Scott, of course, had his coffee. But to stay hydrated throughout the day, I follow a girl on Instagram, Noelle. She was a guest on one of the Freely Rooted podcasts, and she talks about how she tries to get as much nutrients and minerals through her beverages as possible rather than just drinking water. And it was so encouraging because I've been taking Rosemary Gladstar's herbalism class, and she talks about doing solar infused teas. So I had been doing that. I've been putting hibiscus in a giant mason jar, probably like, I don't know, probably a fourth of a cup of hibiscus leaves dried in a mason jar, fill up the whole thing, and then I put it out in the sun. I do that with peppermint leaf, and you can do that rather, if you don't want to do it in the sun, you can also do it overnight. Just put it in there and then put it in the fridge and you're cold infusing it. I like doing it in the sun because you get energy from the sun. I will drink that throughout the day. And it was so cool when I was listening to Noelle talk about this, because she does that as well, and she'll actually add even more things like nettle, red raspberry leaf. It tastes delicious, it's refreshing, and like rather than just drinking plain water, how do we infuse our water to make it as nutritious as possible while we're hydrating ourselves? And I'm sharing all of this with you not to make food confusing or perplex. Actually, I want it to be the opposite. I've found all of this to be very freeing, and being mindful of the purpose of eating is for, yes, enjoyment, but also to be filled with nutrition so we can be the healthiest we can be. It helps us handle stress. When we don't have enough nutrients or minerals, our body ends up being stressed, and we're already stressed from toxins in the air and in the environment, stressed from life in general. So food can help with that, and we've both noticed a huge difference since we've started eating breakfast first thing in the morning. When we were intermittent fasting, I was so fatigued. I struggled throughout the day, and I was like, just fight through it, body, discipline, you are submitted to me, I have authority over you. And looking back, I'm like, oh gosh, like I was so hard on my body. My body was trying to tell me I'm starving, I need nutrients, and I'm like trying to discipline it into action. And for those of you who are trying to get pregnant out there, intermittent fasting is not what you want to be doing. Your body needs to know it's safe to conceive, and that there are plenty of resources, there is no lack, there's plenty of food, there's an abundance of food for you. When you're starving yourself, your body is like, oh gosh, there's not enough food, let's not reproduce. So I had never heard that before. I wish that I had, but now I know. So our oats are ready. I will show you what we do with them. Okay, here's what we've got going on. I'll add sorghum fromageur to both, about a tablespoon each. And then I add coconut butter to mine. So on my Instagram, I shared how to make this, but it's so easy. You literally just put coconut shreds in the blender, but you have to do a lot. And I use a Vitamix, fill it up and shred it, and you've got coconut butter, and it's soft when you make it, and then when you pour it in here after about like a few hours, it gets hard, but it's very easy to get out. And Scott will add the peanut butter we just made, and then we both add cinnamon, and that's our, I guess you'd call it a lunch. It's about, we usually eat this sometime, it's usually like 3 to 4 hours after we eat breakfast. Okay, now it is time for a smoothie. We usually do the smoothie at some point between oats and, I don't know, 2 or 3. These are all the ingredients that we consistently use in it. So already in the Vitamix is mixed fruit from a fruit salad that we have, and about 1 frozen banana, 2 carrots, so I'll cut these up, piece of ginger, green vibrance powder. A nutritionist that we went to highly recommended this. I do think it's really a quality green powder, and it has probiotics, and the ingredients are really awesome. It's quite expensive. We got a super good discount on it, which was amazing. I'm not sure I would buy it again. And then we always add some form of collagen. And then I also have this brand as well. And then kelp powder, I don't add this all the time. So usually when I add kelp, I'll add it, I don't know, every day for like a week, and then I'll take some time off of it. This is basically the only reason that we make smoothies. Otherwise, I don't do this to get raw liver in our diet. So there are so many health benefits to liver, and even more so when it's raw. And so we actually started out with like a very, very small piece. So like maybe that much. And we worked our way up to this. We try to get 4 ounces of raw liver in a week. And so I kind of measured these out and figured out that this is how much we need between the two of us. And really, you don't even taste this in the smoothie at all, which is why we add the frozen banana and the fruit and the carrots. After that, and we blend it for almost a minute to make sure that this is fully blended. And so how I do it is I'll thaw the liver, we get it frozen, and then we, of course, leave it in our freezer for at least 2 weeks, take it out, thaw it, slice it up into the pieces that we like, lay it on parchment paper, and then put it in our deep freezer. And then we take it out and put it in one of these stasher bags, cut up the carrots, put everything in there, fill it up with water, and that's what we eat. I almost forgot about our newest addition to our smoothie ingredients. So since we have bees now, our flow hive has a tray that catches the bee pollen that either the bees drop or they don't use. So I'm gonna go and see if they have any. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. Okay, so here is our beehive. Here's the front, okay. And here's my little tweezers. I found it's easiest to collect with tweezers in my little wooden bowl. Pull that out. And yay, there's a few. There we go. Okay, here we are, dinner time. The crock pot is done, it's on warm. It has our house smelling amazing. And the rice is done, so I usually do a pretty big batch of rice so that way we have leftovers. With the rice, I will simmer olive oil with at least 4 cloves of garlic. We love garlic. So I do that, and then I add all my other spices, and that includes saffron. We love saffron in our rice. So normally I would add sprouts with this meal, but I didn't have any sprouts prepared. So this is our dinner. Also, I forgot to mention that I added our fresh herbs into the rice as well.
And from the raw meat guy on Instagram, I learned a healthy trick that scissors are great for cutting.
So we'll just add that to our rice, drizzle some of the liquid and some onions, and we have dinner. Also, while we're in the kitchen, I'm going to show off my towel drawer. So I did this organization back in November because this drawer was a mess. I could never see what towels I had. And it's something I've been able to stick with. We can always easily see which towels there are. It keeps the drawer nice and it shuts easy. And to finish this lovely day, we've got black bean brownies. Really just brownies. You would never know that there's black beans in it. And raw cream. I hope that this was helpful. And yeah, if you have any questions or want any, I would say if you want any recipes, a lot of things I just make up in the moment. But I have a recipe for these brownies if you'd like them.
They're really good, frankly.
Bless you guys.